There are lots of ways to explore outer space, but there's an inner world as well. So let's explore beyond light and sound and time and space. Join us as we listen in to an experienced inner naut. Get introduced to a new language to describe uncharted, inverted space. We enter through the portal of dreams.
Last night, I had 2 meditation dreams and a very in-depth sleep dream. Now, the first meditation dream, if it had been left to just this meditation dream, would have had me feeling like a disaster is coming. There were 3 scenarios in this dream. Each one ended badly. I can't read the writing on the first one, but the second one had to do with calling in to try to get a stock quote. I could not remember the name of the company. I mentioned a company like US Cellular, and they say, stick with that one. They say, we don't like most of what you do, but stick with this one. Everything I did led to a disaster. The first one was a disaster. In the third one, I'm driving along, and all of a sudden the car stops at an angle in the middle of the road. No engine running, nothing. Then it starts to roll towards the ditch. Try as I might, I can't find the brake. I'm shocked and helpless. I'm going to crash up there. All 3 of these images are saying the same thing. I embody a catastrophe, a crack-up, a disaster in the making. We generally talk about spiritual illusion, with the definition being how we perceive something in terms of how it is and how it exists, and how that is meant to be, in our opinion, which is based on our moods and mannerisms, or the water that we drink, or our tone of an in-breath nature. We get caught up in holding those ideas locked. We call that a spiritual illusion. You can have a good aspect or a bad aspect of it. A spiritual illusion follows the in-breath aspect and keeps you from going somewhere. Yet, there's another half to it. You can have the spiritual illusion like that, or you carry some other kind of attachment or mannerism within your nature, and it jinxes whatever you do. I remember a story about a woman that had some sort of specialness about her, where she could go right where the teacher was staying. She just had free reign. I don't know what it was about her, but I would talk to her. She was very poor all the time. And one day she told a dream to our teacher. And he says, you just keep having the same pattern happening again and again. Wherever you go, you get flooded or something happens. You're attached to your poverty. Usually, you hear this said of one who's mistaken in their grandiose spiritual illusions, but it can also go in the other direction. So, the disaster of things was how this started. Then I progressed into the next meditation. Good thing I had another meditation dream. I have been all worried that something was going to fall apart in the outer because I still have a tendency to apply it like that. The next day I experienced a sensation where things go back and forth inside of myself between an ample situation and a need. Ample or need. And in the final image, I have it repeated. I'm loaded with ample quantities of whatever I need. It's a relief. I can go anywhere with that. With anything that could come up, I can always reach for that. Unfortunately, timing is everything, even on the inner. It turns out that in the story here, I have 15 minutes perhaps before I have to be somewhere. But on the whole other zone or level. And there's not enough time to take all I need with me. I can go back to it when I'm able to integrate it and bring that back. But I can't take it with me at this point. I have to leave it behind. And so, as I'm laying back, I see what took place in an abbreviated way. The heading of it is New Knowledge. And new isn't spelled N-E-W. It's spelled K-N-E-W. A new knowledge. So, the meditation dream is suggesting when my need is not met and I still have about me more than I need, I bring the two levels together and it changes everything. If I was to separate the two as if they stand alone, one is a disaster and the other is an ongoing euphoria. Just easy peasy. We're still staying in the meditation dream. You have a contrast within what is considered a spiritual illusion. Apparently, it takes in both halves. It can take in the poverty mentality, or mannerism, we'll call it, which causes everything to go to pieces no matter what you do. Or it can have a whole other quality in which there's a magic juju behind it all, where something actually evolves and you just go with that. So, as I said, spiritual illusion, if you give it a deeper meaning, is not just something that occurs on the in-breath of oneself. It can also be something in terms of karma or mannerism on the out-breath that leads to a catastrophe. The sleep dream is a very interesting dream. I'm wondering if I should tell it and then read it or just read it. I think I'll just try to read it and tell it at the same time to fill in the pieces. The dream starts out where I'm in a line in which those in line with me are all deadbeats, dropouts, just trying to get by. I'm near the back of the line, and next to me is a person who doesn't say anything. He's kind of a reject to the rejects. I mean, us rejects in this line at least know we're rejects. And we have that in common. We can talk back and forth in terms of our plight, but we reject him because he somehow is an even greater reject than us. We're better off than him. He's a sick-looking guy with poked face and stuff. But I talk to him. And then at some particular point, and I'll just fit this in, I have been in another scenario in line, also in a dire situation. And when I came to the front, there was a security guard there that was a nobody, just thrown out there. He was a reject in his fashion. He didn't fit with what he was guarding. They could throw him in the trash at any time. He was one of the expendable of the expendables. Pathetic. But we'll see if he drew abuse upon himself. I talked to him and we were immediately friends. That was just the flashback. Now back to the main story. Here in the lineup, there's the pokey face, sick guy who looks pitiful, and me. We're waiting for what's inside the buildings that were lined up before. All of us rejects, as if we were looking for something. We're waiting in line. We're waiting for what's inside the buildings that were lined up before. All of us rejects, as if we're looking for something. The dream doesn't explain what we're looking for here, whether it's food or a job or something else. You're given an opportunity to offer something or present yourself in some fashion, and the pokey-faced guy does something rather incredible. And so he's entitled to move up, and because I'm his friend, I move up with him and we go up near the front. When I get up to the front, maybe he was just disguised all the time because someone in the building had come out and he seems to know who they are. While they're just joshing away, I'm standing next to him, kind of out of place, a little to the side of the line. And I see two other people up front that I kind of recognize. Who would have guessed? They motion for me to cut in where they're at, so I go over there. They motion for me to cut in when we're there. They motion for me to cut in where they're at. So I go over there. When we get in and I realize, boy, was he in disguise. He's connected to the head of the organization, right? The pokey-faced sick guy. And he talks to people? Then we go mingling. I think we go into a bar. In this bar, there's a very narrow-faced, no personality, high-pitched, squeaky guy that knows this pokey face. They're the best of buddies. I look at him and think, what's going on here? You know, he's very flat, like no personality, but boy, was I wrong. Eventually, as we were talking about the operations and things, the other guy turns out to be an attorney, and he's the main attorney. He handles all the delicate issues, and he says that he's bailing things out left and right all the time because they have to turn to him. He's the guy. And he works hand in hand with this pokey face guy. So then, at some point, the pokey face guy offers me a key role in the entire operation. I say, I'm no good at such a thing. I've always worked on my own. Sorry about that. Thank you, but no thank you. I can't cut the mustard. Well, the pokey-faced guy is brilliant. He pulls all the strings to the whole thing. I didn't really realize that. He reads people better than anyone I've ever known without hesitation. He can see how my independence can apply and work with the organization. So all of a sudden, it's like I'm in like Flynn with what makes this go, associated straight away with the top of the top. Now, back to the flashback. I come across the security guard, and he's been given the shaft, of course. And he's crying and broken down. Same old pattern, mistreated from the get-go. He has found the base as part of the juju of his nature. But I look at him, and I know that he's the real deal, like a wonderful guy. In spite of the fact that he's an immigrant and a minority and automatically discriminated against, that's not how I am. So I take him before the pokey-faced guy. In the end, it's the pokey-faced guy, the attorney, me, and this down-and-out security guard running the entire shop. Who would have guessed? So that was what happened last night. And you have to kind of sit with the meditation dreams to see how the long story fits in the terms of pulling it all together, showing how all of that functions in terms of the inner into the outer, how that comes across, and the central aspect, the driving engine behind all of it, is that you have to let go of all of the spiritual illusions. Those are the illusions that you carry on the in-breath rhythm of yourself, in terms of your image of yourself, and the spiritual illusion that you can have based upon the story of being down and out and attached to your poverty mentality with anything that can go wrong is going wrong. How do you rise above that? That is the story of the security guard. The impressions that one carries because of the spiritual illusion we hold in our image of ourselves is the story of the pokey-faced guy. He wasn't in the same space that the others were in line. He wasn't in the same space that the others in the line were in. This is a continuation also of my dream of the whole thing that occurred yesterday, which was really evident in the conversation that I had with my friend, and there for the first 20 minutes, I was so flat that I couldn't function. I was dead, just dead. Then, because I normally would have some kind of spiritual comment or input, I started surfacing from the ashes, and what came out of that with him was incredible. I was listening more intently because I couldn't believe what I knew, what I was saying, and what I had learned somehow. It was all right there, meant to be. I just had to go through this little barrier, this spiritual illusion that fits both above and below. Below being my attachments to my poverty, and the above being my concepts of how I carry myself.
Listening In is a part of the Nameless podcast. Nameless, Evolution Begins Within, is available on Apple Podcast, Spotify, and all major platforms. Or go to our website, thenamelessshow.com, for more information. Copyright 2021 under Sophia Unity Foundation, where wisdom is one.